This hour of the Howie Carr Show is brought to you in part by Simply Safe. It's just $14.99 a month, and Simply Safe just released its new high-definition security camera. It sends your smartphone a video the second something happens at home. Check out Simply Safe's new camera today at simplysafehowie.com. That's simplysafehowie.com. Well, so we'll continue with this since it's, we can get into welfare as well as immigration and the problems with Muslim terrorist attacks. So, and we'll get to the new stories that are going to be appearing in your local newspapers and TV stations later on. Now that a Republican is back in the White House, it's an amazing thing, you know. For 8 years, I haven't seen a single story about the homeless. We totally solve the homelessness problem. But I just have this feeling. It's more than a feeling. I'd bet anything on it that come January 20th, we're going to suddenly have a homelessness problem again in the United States of America. And you know what? The gas prices, there haven't been any stories. They go up. The prices go up. No stories. The prices go down. Well, it might get a mention. Now with Donald Trump in there, if the price goes up like 1 cent a gallon, they'll be doing live shots. Excuse me, sir. How are you going to get to work now that the price of gas is rising so rapidly under this evil Republican administration? Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. By the way, presidential children will no longer be off limits. They've been off limits for 8 years. Now we're going to go back to Sarah Palin days. Remember that? David Letterman talking about her daughter getting raped in the infield by A-Rod. Remember that? So it's already starting with Barron. You know, Rosie O'Donnell's going after Barron. We'll get to this in a while. We'll take some more calls on the terrorists on welfare and everybody else on welfare, and also the voter fraud. Kim, you're next with Howie Carr. Go ahead, Kim.
Hey, Howie, welcome back from vacation. It's nice to hear your voice.
Thank you.
I have a maybe it's a crazy question, but being a Native American, our people are a conquered people, and we were made to acclimate into society, which we did.
Yes.
I don't understand how we have a place in Minnesota called Little Mogadishu, and it's acceptable that these people do not speak English, but yet they're allowed to vote. We have to give them special ballots and interpreters, which, again, drives me out of my ever-loving mind. I just don't get it. Why are they not made to acclimate when they're going for their citizenship? They don't speak English. They don't read.
I don't get it either, Kim. And it's not just Native Americans. I mean, everybody in previous generations, up until 50 years ago, if you came to the country, and you had to learn to speak English to get along. There were no ballots in your native tongue. There was no welfare or for you and Section 8 housing. You had to sink or swim, right?
Yeah, and that welfare thing. There's a gentleman up here in Maine, and I'm not lying. He's a veteran from, I believe it was from the Korean War, Purple Heart. He gets $1,200 a month. Meanwhile, you got these illegals that are, and I'm not kidding you, they get $1,700 a month. I have a special needs sister who gets $712 a month, and she is mentally retarded. I just don't get it.
Yep. Well, I think you get it, Kim. You're angry about it like we all are. I mean, this is political correctness run amok. What I don't understand is what was the end game for these Democrats? I mean, they lost the election and all that. They were planning on bringing in more of these people. I mean, it's basically destabilizing the society to bring in people who you're not going to compel to integrate or assimilate into the society. It doesn't make any sense. It's crazy. No society has ever done this in the past, or if they've done it, I mean, the society has rapidly collapsed. And that's what was going to happen here. Thanks a lot for the call, Kim. 1-844-500-4242. The text line is just full of people, just like Kim, talking about all their relatives. They're Americans. They were born here. They can't get the benefits, or they can't get the benefits that these quote unquote refugees are getting, or these asylees. And you always notice that there's always a story in the paper about every month or so that they bring in these Afghan military, and to give them training before they send them back to fight the Taliban, and they immediately run away from the base. Gee, I wonder why. Because once they get asylum, they can bring over their families. And not only do they not have to worry about not getting blown up by the Taliban, they don't have to worry about working. How many of these people do you think are at job training programs, by the way? I mean, considering the fact that according to the government's own statistics that 91% of the Arab-speaking quote-unquote refugees are still on welfare 5 years after they arrive. How about the Sarni? Did the Sarnievs go to any job training programs? That was what you call a rhetorical question. Jay, you're next with Howie Carr. Go ahead, Jay.
Howie, good afternoon. Well, I'm in California, so it's kind of early in the day. I just had a question, and I'm not going to rant and rail. I was kind of disturbed by the President-elect Trump and his statement about burning the flag.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, hypothetically, I was born in the U.S., my parents, I served 3.5 years in the military. If I somehow got something upset and burned the flag, would they take away does he want to take away my citizenship?
Well, he can't, he can't do that, Jay, and I think he knows he can't do that. And, I think he was just, just throwing his voters a little red meat, Jay, I think.
Okay.
Don't you think so? I mean, do you really think he was serious when he said that?
No, the only reason I don't think he's serious is I don't think the courts and even the conservative court would allow it.
Yeah, well, Edmund Scalia said that, he said, I would like to lock up all the people who burn the flags, but I'm not the king. In other words, we have a constitution, and it's a free speech issue. And by the way, when Hillary Clinton introduced this legislation to make it a federal crime to burn the flag, do you know who led the fight in the Senate to kill the bill? I'll give you a hint. It's a Democrat. You'll never get it. I never got it either. I read it today. Jim Webb.
It couldn't have been Elizabeth Warren.
It couldn't have been Elizabeth Warren, that's for sure. Well, she wasn't in the Senate then, but Jim Webb, the conservative Democrat, who's a Vietnam vet himself, he said, I guess his theory was, I didn't go to Vietnam and fight for the Constitution and freedom of speech to have this kind of silly legislation passed into law. Yeah, but I wouldn't worry about it, Jay.
My parting comment would be that I abhor people that burn the flag, even though you'd call me left of center. So anyway, have a good day, and thanks for letting me on.
Thanks, Jay. I appreciate it. Keep listening out in California or watching, as the case may be. 413 says, just Donald Trump was just voicing what a lot of us think when we see people burning the flag. Yeah. The thing is, what got him going on this? And again, this is what happens when he just spends all of his time watching Fox News. About 5 minutes before he sent that tweet out, they ran a package on Fox News about what's going on out at Hampshire College in Amherst. And you know what's going on. They've decided to take down the American flag because it's too divisive. It's ridiculous. And you read these stories about Hampshire College. It's always been a hippie place. But, they're totally out of control now. I wonder if this will affect their contributions. Probably. I don't know. I don't know anyone who's ever gone there who wasn't a hippie. So maybe it'll goose up contributions. But they've done away with the American flag now at Hampshire College because they don't want to cause trouble. It's divisive.
Do we know if they got a burn permit before they set that flag on fire?
That's a very good question. Bruce, you're next with Howie Carr. Go ahead on the General Communications listener line. Go ahead, Bruce.
Howie, thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
I'm pretty sure that, because of the drought that we've had, there should have been a problem with anybody burning anything, especially the American flag, but let that go. How about the guy that was driving the car, the terrorist? I won't even say his name because he's not worth mentioning. But the registration was Muhammad Ali. So was he floating like a
Oh, come on, Bruce. Thanks for the call. 844-500-4242. Rob, you're next with Howie Carr. Go ahead, Rob.
Hey, Howie. I just asked my dad, he's 95-year-old World War II veteran, combat infantry, and I just asked him a minute ago because we were talking about this. I said, Dad, if you found someone who burned the American flag, do you think they ought to be fined? Yeah, he said. Dad, do you think they ought to at least spend a weekend in the pokey? Yeah. So, there's a lot of guys like him, and you're going to find, military who doesn't agree. But
Yeah.
he agrees and I agree. There should be at least a fine, something. And you know what? We don't consider that speech. That's an action.
Yeah.
Maybe it's an expression, but it's not speech. And I don't think that was protected. And I don't think the Founding Fathers ever meant actions like that to be categorized as speech, Howie.
You may be right, Rob, but on the other hand, if you start making these kinds of distinctions about what's speech and what's an action, I mean you're getting into kind of I hate to use that cliche, a slippery slope, aren't you?
Well, there's a lot of slippery slopes, Howie, but I'm going to stand on the side of the American flag and what it represents. And as far as I'm concerned, my dad and his brother, who is also a World War II veteran.
Mm-hmm.
It's more on the line of treasonous action, okay? Because you are with your speech, you're saying to hell with the United States. We don't respect it. In fact, we wish that the United States would be destroyed as we are destroying this flag.
Well, but the problem is, Rob, if you make that a crime, then if people like us make that a crime, then what happens when people like Hillary get in and they say that going to a Donald Trump rally is expressing your contempt for the diversity that is America? I mean, they can. You see what I'm saying? If we can make that a crime, then they can make something we do a crime, right?
Howie, that's a slippery slope on Mount Everest. Okay, we're talking about a slippery slope on a little hill, maybe Pork Chop Hill. Where the enemy would destroy the flag. Howie, why don't you investigate how many countries? In Western countries, what's the punishment for burning the national flag in public?
I don't think
an interesting question. Which you think?
I think you know the answer that they're not going to do that because probably they're going to go into the jail and they're going to have a terrible accident befall them during the questioning by the police, Rob. But they're not going to be burning flags in most countries of the world outside of the English-speaking countries in the EU and maybe a handful of other countries. Thanks for the call, Rob. Let's see here. Mark, you're next with Howie Carr. Go ahead, Mark.
Hey, Howie, I have a theory about why they would let refugees in the country, and it's not just to enhance the voter base for the Democrats. I think it has to do with a common imminent threat. If they allow terrorism to spread equally around the world, it's part of a global initiative that we should all get band together, make one universal control in order to fight this common threat that we all face.
I don't know, Mark. That's kind of a stretch, I think. Do you think the people that are bringing them in really want to fight terrorism? I mean, that's like saying I want to fight cancer by injecting myself with some cancer cells.
I think it's more of a fact that you're preying on people's fear, and they tried it with global warming, and it didn't work because they wanted to band the world together with global warming, and with all these threats that we're all going to die within.
The thing is with the global warming, there's no
work.
The global warming is fake. It's more fake news. Yeah. I mean, terrorism is real. Look what happens. Look what happened yesterday. Look what happened in San Bernardino. Look what happened Chattanooga, Boston, wherever. All Times Square they tried to blow up. I mean, it's a different it's a different phenomenon certainly than global warming. Thanks for the call, Mark. 1-844-500-4242. I'm Howie Carr.
He didn't come here to be made sport of. Howie Carr.